Stop for a moment. Because what I'm about to share with you is not a prediction. It has already been happening for over a year. ASHTAR SHERAN has transmitted an official confirmation. 3 years of global collapse. The years are 2025, 2026, and 2027. You are already deep inside this window. 2025 already showed you the first cracks. And if you are watching what is happening right now in 2026, financial systems under pressure that no official explanation can fully account for, governments that seemed untouchable visibly destabilizing, narratives that held for decades collapsing in real time, what you are watching is not random. It is the second phase of something that was transmitted with precision before it began. I want to be honest with you about what this means. When ASHTAR uses the word collapse, he is not describing the end of everything you love. He is describing the end of everything that was never supposed to exist the way it has existed. There is a fundamental difference between those two things, and understanding that difference changes everything about how you move through what is still coming. What is falling is not humanity. What is falling are the artificial structures that were built on top of human energy without human consent, financial systems that drained generations, institutions that promised protection and delivered control, narratives that taught people they were small, powerless, and dependent on systems that were quietly feeding on them. These structures are not collapsing by accident. They are collapsing because the energetic field of this planet can no longer sustain them. The Earth has shifted. The collective consciousness has shifted. And what cannot adapt to that shift begins to crack from the inside out. You felt this before you understood it. That feeling growing in you for years, that something enormous is moving beneath the surface of the visible world. That was not anxiety. That was precise perception. And the transmission from ASHTAR confirms what your intuition already knew. The signs of the collapse are not hidden. They are in the headlines you read every morning. They just require a different layer of interpretation than most people are applying. When central banks announce they need to completely reimagine their models, that is not ordinary economic news. That is the symptom of a system that has lost the internal coherence that kept it standing. When governments that were elected on promises of transparency begin criminalizing the act of asking questions, that is not politics as usual. That is a structure revealing its own fractures under pressure. 2025 was the year the cracks became visible to people who were not looking. Not just to those of us who had been watching for years, but to the ordinary person sitting at a kitchen table wondering why everything felt less stable than the year before. That phase is complete. You lived through it, you felt it. 2026, the year you are in right now, is the acceleration. This is when the social layer follows the financial one. The systems that organize how people relate to each other, media, community structures, the shared agreements about what is true, these are the structures currently under the most pressure. What began as economic uncertainty in 2025 has now moved into something that touches daily life more personally. And you are feeling that too. If you are feeling what we are describing, the exhaustion, the confusion, the sense that everything is shifting faster than you can process, you are not losing your mind. You are awakening, and you do not have to navigate it alone. The guide in the first pinned comment, The Path of Conscious Awakening, has a complete map of exactly what phase you are in right now and what to do about it. Subscribe to Codex, leave your name and where you are from below. And 2027 is different from both of those years. What happens in 2027 is not more collapse. What happens in 2027 is contact, but not the kind most people imagine when they hear that word. Before we reach that, there is something about the nature of what is collapsing that you need to understand first. The word collapse carries a weight that can stop people from hearing the actual message. So I want to place something specific in your hands here. Think about what happens when a dam breaks. The water behind it was always there. It was real, it was moving, it had somewhere it needed to go. The dam was the thing that was artificial, inserted to redirect that force away from where it naturally flows. When the dam breaks, what you see first is chaos. Water moving fast and loud in directions it was not supposed to go. But the water is not the problem. The dam was the problem. And what the water is doing, even in that first terrifying rush, is returning to its natural course. The 3 years ASHTAR confirmed are the breaking of specific dams, not the destruction of life, the destruction of what was redirecting life away from itself. And in 2026, you are watching the second dam give way, the one that controlled how people understand reality, who they trust, and what they believe is possible. The specific regions feeling this most intensely right now are not random. Dense urban centers in the Northeast Corridor, the financial districts of major coastal cities, the media and government hubs that shaped collective perception for generations. These are the locations where the energetic pressure of the dissolution is most concentrated. If you live near those places, what you are feeling in your body is not personal, it is locational. You are standing at one of the pressure points. What the Arcturian Council transmitted alongside ASHTAR's confirmation adds a layer that changes how you see your own position in all of this. The collapse is not happening to awakened souls. It is happening through them. You are not a victim of this moment. You are one of its instruments. To understand 2027, you first have to understand what contact actually means, because the word has been distorted by decades of science fiction and deliberate misdirection. Most people, when they hear the word contact, picture something external, a ship landing, an announcement, a moment that happens on a screen and is confirmed by someone in authority. That is precisely the version of contact that will not happen in 2027. And I want to be clear about this, that the misdirection around contact was intentional, because the real contact is something that cannot be controlled, cannot be delayed, and cannot be denied once it begins. The contact ASHTAR is describing is a frequency event, not a single moment but a sustained opening, a window in the energetic field of this planet during which the vibrational distance between human consciousness and galactic consciousness collapses to near zero. Not for everyone simultaneously, for the souls who prepared, for the souls who spent these years of collapse staying awake when everything around them was pushing toward sleep. The Pleiadian Council has been specific about what this means physically. It means that humans who have maintained their frequency through the 2025 and 2026 years of disruption will begin receiving transmissions that are not filtered through any intermediary, not through channelers, not through teachers, directly, in dreams that are not dreams, in moments of sudden knowing that carry a different quality than ordinary thought, in synchronicities so precise they stop being explainable as coincidence. Some of you are already in the early stages of this, that ringing in your left ear that comes and goes. That moment of waking at 3 a.m. with a feeling that someone was just speaking to you and you almost caught the words. That sudden flood of grief with no apparent cause that passes in minutes and leaves you strangely peaceful. These are not symptoms of something wrong. These are early contact signatures. Your system is being calibrated. The 3 years of collapse are not 3 years of waiting for contact. They are 3 years of preparation for it. And 2026 is the most critical preparation year of the 3. What you do with your consciousness right now, how you hold your frequency while the structures around you dissolve, determines what you are capable of receiving when 2027 opens. I need to speak directly to you right now, not to everyone watching, to you specifically. You did not find this transmission by accident. The algorithm does not explain why certain people arrive at certain messages at certain moments. You have been in this awakening long enough to know that. Something steered you here today. And what I'm about to share is the part of ASHTAR's confirmation that most channels will not touch, because it is the part that places direct responsibility on the individual soul, rather than on cosmic forces acting from outside. The collapse of 2026 is not something happening to you. It is something happening through the collective field of which you are a living part. Every soul that holds a stable frequency during this period, every person who refuses to collapse into fear when the structures around them dissolve, is actively contributing to the coherence of the field that makes 2027 possible. You are not a spectator. You are infrastructure. The SHERAN Council transmitted something specific about the souls who were placed in the most destabilized locations during this window. In the great cities losing their energetic coherence right now, the financial centers, the media hubs, the political capitals, There are souls who were not placed there by accident. They were seated there decades ago for exactly this moment, to hold frequency in the places of maximum pressure, to be present in the locations where the old field is collapsing fastest, and the new one has not yet formed. If you are living in one of those locations right now, and wondering why you cannot leave, why every attempt to relocate feels blocked, why you feel inexplicably rooted in a place that drains you, this is my reading of what that means. You are not trapped. You were stationed, and the transmission from the Syrian Council says those souls carry a specific dispensation of protection that ordinary energetic shielding does not fully explain. What that protection requires in return is consciousness. Not perfection, not constant high vibration, but the daily choice to stay awake, to keep asking the deeper question, to refuse the numbing that the dissolution of familiar structures invites. The moments when you most want to turn off, tune out, and just let the noise of the collapsing world take over. Those are the moments your presence matters most. The dates the Syrian Council named in connection with the 2027 contact window, what they actually mean and why they matter for where you are standing right now. We will reach that before this transmission ends. The specific timeline of 2027 that ASHTAR confirmed carries 3 threshold dates. Not calendar dates in the ordinary sense. Threshold events. Moments when the energetic conditions shift enough that something new becomes possible that was not possible the day before. The first threshold is in the early part of 2027. ASHTAR described it as the moment of collective recognition, when a critical mass of human consciousness simultaneously acknowledges, without external confirmation, that the reality they were living in was constructed, not discovered, not inherited, deliberately built to produce specific outcomes in human behavior and human potential. This recognition does not require an announcement. It happens in living rooms, in bedrooms at 3 in the morning, in the quiet moment after someone finishes watching something like this and sits with what they now cannot unfeel. The second threshold falls in the middle of 2027. This is what ASHTAR specifically called the contact aperture, the window during which the vibrational conditions on Earth most closely match the vibrational signature of the galactic civilizations that have been waiting at the edge of this planet's field for longer than recorded history. The Arcturians, the Pleiadians, the Syrian Councils, not waiting passively, actively holding a sustained transmission that has been calibrating toward this window for decades. What opens during that aperture is not a mass landing. I want to be clear about this because the misrepresentation of contact has done real damage to people's ability to receive what is actually coming. What opens is a direct line of communication between human consciousness operating at a specific frequency and the galactic consciousness that has been transmitting toward Earth. The channel will be personal. The contact will feel intimate, and it will arrive in ways that cannot be faked, cannot be manufactured, and cannot be explained by any framework that does not acknowledge the reality of what you are. The third threshold, in the later months of 2027, the transmission describes as the moment of embodiment, the point at which the contact is not just received but integrated, when it changes not just what you know, but what you are capable of doing, healing, creating, and transmitting to others. This is what the 3 years of collapse were always building toward. Not a world destroyed, a species transformed. This is the part of the transmission I have been sitting with longest before sharing, because it places something specific on your shoulders, and I believe you are ready to hear it. ASHTAR's confirmation of the 3 years was not delivered as a warning. It was delivered as a briefing. The distinction matters. A warning is given to someone who might be able to avoid what is coming. A briefing is given to someone who is going to be in the middle of it and needs to know what they are dealing with. You received a briefing tonight. That means something about the role you are being called to play. The specific action ASHTAR named for souls in the 2026 window is this: hold your knowing out loud, not aggressively, not in argument with people who are not ready, but visibly, when the person next to you in the collapsing world reaches for the explanation that keeps everything familiar and manageable and safe. Your job is to simply remain in your knowing without apology. That act of being a stable, undefended presence in a destabilizing field is more powerful than any individual action you could take. The second action named in the transmission is protection of your frequency through the specific practices that maintain coherence under sustained pressure. Not occasional meditation, not inspiration consumed passively. Daily practice, morning anchoring, intentional shielding before entering spaces of high electromagnetic and emotional disruption. The souls who arrive at the 2027 aperture with their frequency intact are the ones who treated 2026 as training, not as something to endure. Subscribe to Codex. Share this with the one person who needs it tonight. Leave your name and your city below. And if you are ready to move from receiving to doing, the guide in the first pinned comment has the exact daily protection practices, the 7-day energetic cleansing protocol, and the complete 21-day plan that will carry your frequency through the rest of 2026 and into the 2027 aperture prepared. The path of conscious awakening was built for this exact moment. It is waiting for you. The Syrian Council's dates for the 2027 contact aperture respond to collective consciousness and can open earlier for those whose preparation is already complete. The souls who will receive contact first are not the ones who learned the most. They are the ones who stayed the most consistently themselves through the years of maximum pressure. That description fits you more than you know. You came here tonight because something in you already knew. That is not a poetic statement. It is a description of how the transmission system actually works. The message finds the soul that is ready for it, not the soul that is perfect, the soul that is ready. 2026 is the hardest year of the three. Not because the outer collapse is the most dramatic. 2027's transformation will be more visible and more undeniable than anything happening right now. But because 2026 asks you to hold your center, while everything around you loses its familiar shape. That is a specific kind of spiritual endurance. And the fact that you are here, at the end of this transmission, tells me you have been building that endurance for years without always knowing why. What ASHTAR confirmed is not just collapse. It is completion. The completion of a cycle that began long before this civilization. The completion of a chapter in the story of a species that spent millennia being held smaller than it actually is. You are living at the end of that chapter. You are one of the souls who chose to be here for the turning of the page. The contact of 2027 is not a reward for enduring the collapse. It is the natural consequence of it. When the structures that suppressed human frequency dissolve completely, what was always there underneath becomes audible. You were never disconnected from the galactic family that has been transmitting toward you. You were just in a field designed to make that signal seem like noise. That field is dissolving. Right now, in 2026, in the year you are living. Before you close this, I want to speak to something real. Many of you going through this awakening are not sleeping. You wake in the night and cannot go back. You feel things you cannot explain to the people around you. You know something is happening, but you do not have a map for it. The guide in the first pinned comment was built for exactly that. It is called The Path of Conscious Awakening. Inside it, you will find the complete 3 phases of awakening explained, so you finally know which phase you are in right now. A 7-day energetic cleansing protocol, chakra activation practices, advanced daily protection techniques for exactly the kind of pressure 2026 is putting on your field, and 8 prayers transmitted by Commander ASHTAR specifically to restore deep, protected, peaceful sleep. Because I know the nights are often the hardest part of this journey. Subscribe to Codex. Share this transmission with the one person you know who is carrying this alone. Leave your name and your city below. And go get the guide. It was placed there for you. You were not born into this moment by accident. You were sent here for it. And the most important thing you can do right now, in 2026, in the middle of everything that is dissolving, is to stay awake, stay sovereign, and stay exactly who you are. The contact is coming. You are already prepared for it.